Hi everyone, in this video I'm going to talk about your A-Math exercise 2.1 homework. I'm going to discuss some of the solutions to the questions that we have encountered and also to point out certain things that you need to take note of in terms of your presentation or your delivery of your answers. We will first take a look at exercise 2.1 question 3. So over here you find the question that is actually located in your textbook page 31. Okay, so in this question it asks, find the coordinates of the points of intersection between the curves and the lines. So we're looking at part C for this solution here. Okay, we have the line x equals to 5 minus y and x squared plus x plus y squared equals to 51. Very often I notice that many of you jump directly into solving without reading the question in the complete form. So in this question, we want to find the coordinates, and many of us are aware that we have to do it by solving simultaneous equations. So I want us to be very clear that whenever we're solving simultaneous equations, we need to present very clearly by labeling your equations. So I have labeled x equals to 5 minus y as my first equation, and then x squared plus x plus y squared equals to 51 as my second equation. Then I very clearly state my instruction of substituting equation 1 into equation 2, followed by my series of steps. Okay, so I really want to emphasize on the presentation aspect, which is very much lacking in many of your homework. Then when it comes to solving, okay, many of you manage to arrive at a quadratic equation, okay, to get 2y squared minus 11y minus 21 equals to 0. Then, okay, the process of solving needs to be very clearly stated. So my choice of solving is by doing my quadratic factorization. Okay, so I noticed that this equation itself could be factorized, so I did that and I arrived at this one. So you need to state very clearly your method of solving. Okay, so there are a few of you who did not state this method of solving. Okay. Additionally, I'm concerned about how some of you, okay, probably use a calculator and do not know how to do factorization of quadratic expressions. Right? If you need a recap on that, I would suggest that you jump into my YouTube channel and look at the video that I'm going to upload for my Sec 2s just during this HPL session as well. Alright, so looking at this note that I've written over here. Okay, if you're going to solve by factorization, the factorization must actually be correct. So for example, the equation that you wrote in the previous line is 2y squared minus 11y minus 21 equals to 0. It is not possible that the factorization is going to be y plus 3 over 2 times y minus 7 equals to 0. This factorization is not equivalent to what you have in the line before. Okay, it is clear to me that maybe you got some help using your calculator such that it led you to having this factorized form. But this is definitely not the correct factorization to the equation that you have written in the line before. Okay, so while you need to have that step being shown, you must make sure that it is actually accurate. Then we proceed to solve that the 2y plus 3 is equals to 0, which leads to y equals to negative 3 over 2. And then y minus 7, okay, when solved, made equals to 0, okay, and then you solve it, you will get y equals to 7. Okay, then from there, we can find out the corresponding x values. Alright, one very important thing is that, back to the question, we want to find the coordinates. So please make sure that you write down the coordinates, okay, as per what the question asks. Alright, so that is very important and often missing in some of your work. Okay. You might be wondering, okay, can I not actually solve by factorization? Right? Is it okay if I solve by using the formula? Yes, you may. Okay, so again, going on to my next slide. Okay, so you can also use the formula, just that again, you must write very clearly. Okay, in the formula sense, it will actually be presented this way. So make sure you write the subject. We are trying to solve for y, so please make sure you write down y equals to the solution. Okay, so this solution over here is your formula. So please make sure that you substitute correctly. Show the substitution do not just write for me negative b plus minus square root b square minus 4ac divided by 2a. Okay, you must show the substitution of the correct values. Another reminder is that your fraction line needs to be long enough to cover what you need to cover. Likewise, the roof, okay, I don't know what is this called, but the roof of your square root symbol must also be long enough. Okay, so these are problems that many of you tend to make, okay, out of laziness, right, such that you do not get the square root sign or the fraction line written properly. Okay, so I really do not have any concerns about the process of solving. It's really more of the presentation issues for question 3 that I want all of us to take note of. Alright, I'll move on next to question 5b. Okay, so in question 5b, we want to find the coordinates again of the points of intersection between the curves and the line. So this is the equation of the line, and then this quadratic one is the equation of a curve. So again, present very clearly. Okay, I have to make the y the subject, y equals 2x minus 4, and then after that proceed to solve. So again, answer the question. Okay, so the method of solving is really not a problem. It is more of the presentation that I have issues with. Okay, sorry, but I also want to backtrack to question 3 earlier on. Okay, let me just go back. I forgot to mention that some of you, instead of x equals to 5 minus y and using this directly, okay, very strangely, I do have a number of you who like to make y the subject, which wasn't necessary at all. Okay, you need not put y equals to 5 minus x. Okay, then after that you do your substitution. I find that it is a very redundant step and not efficient at all. Alright, so while many of you keep telling me that you want to remove this step, remove that step, so I don't understand why sometimes you give me redundant steps in the first place. So I think that we are very absorbed into the idea of trying to write lesser, okay, and not realizing the whole efficiency of doing things. Okay, not very concerned about the whole process. So I hope that we could focus more on the process rather than trying to eliminate certain steps, okay, that will so-called maybe make things faster for you. I really do not see how fast that you could get out of that. Okay, so going back to question 5, and that's we're done. Okay, and then the last one for exercise 2.1 is question 10. Question 10 gives us a ladder problem, okay, that is 5 meters long, okay, placed along a horizontal floor and leaning against a vertical wall. The base of the ladder is x meters from the wall, and the top of the ladder is y meters from the floor. So in part I, we want to form a non-linear equation in x and y. Most of you are able to apply your Pythagoras theorem to give me x squared plus y squared equals to 5 squared. Okay, but many of you do not simplify your answers. So I want to emphasize on the simplification of answer. You must write 5 squared into 25. Okay, you shouldn't leave it as x squared plus y squared equals to 5 squared only. Okay, so that's for part I. Then moving on to part 2. Question says, solve your non-linear equation with the linear equation. Okay, so the non-linear equation that we had earlier on was x squared plus y squared equals 25. I labeled that as equation 1, followed by y minus x equals to 1, which is my equation 2. Then for equation 2, okay, we will take y as a subject, okay, or maybe some of you want to make x a subject, that's fine. Okay, then after that we solve it. Okay, so solve by your substitution method, and then making sure that we write down what is our method of solving. So for me, it is by quadratic factorization. Okay, some of you may want to use formula, that's fine. However, unfortunately, some of you, instead of instead of continuing to find the value of y, okay, I have a large number of you who just stop at finding the value of x. Okay, what does the question actually want? The question wants you to solve the non-linear equation with the linear equation. And by solving, we're trying to figure out the values of the two unknowns. Okay, we have two unknowns over here, so you must find out what is the value of y as well. Okay, So that is a reminder over here. Then in writing out your final solution, because it comes as a set, so x equals to negative 4 must come together with y equals to negative 3. So we write it in this manner: x equals to negative 4 and y equals to negative 3. And then the second set is x equals to 3 with y equals to 4. So it's either one of this set. That's why the word or over here. Okay, and then within that pair, okay, I put the word and. Right? I think I did have one person who wrote it out in coordinates form, okay, which doesn't answer the question at all, because this question is not a coordinate question in the first place. So I'm not sure why you gave me coordinates as solutions. Right? So please make sure that you answer the question completely by writing down very clearly what are your solutions at the end. Okay. Then moving on to part 3. The question says, explain why only one of the solutions is acceptable. Okay, I want to point out attention to this sentence that I've written in purple first before trying to explain the my answer over here. Okay, many of you are just writing down for me length cannot be negative. Okay, I am very clear that length cannot be negative. Likewise, I believe all of us are very clear about length not being able to be negative in value. Okay. However, question is asking you to explain. Explain what? Explain why only one of the solutions is acceptable. Okay. In this very brief phrase, I wouldn't even call it a sentence because it's not complete at all. Okay. So in this brief phrase over here, you are not telling me why only one of the solutions is acceptable. You're just telling me a fact. You're just telling me that length cannot be negative. You're just stating a fact. That's all. Okay? You are not trying to explain. An explanation should be complete, okay, by writing for us a complete sentence. Okay? So you need to always draw the link between what you know as a fact to the context of the question, to what the question is trying to ask. So the question is trying to ask us about one of the solutions. We saw that there were two solutions. So we need to state very clearly which one is acceptable in the first place. Okay, and why is it that it is acceptable? Alright, so in my answer over here, I stated very clearly that only x equals to 3 and y equals to 4 is acceptable. So I stated what is acceptable. You may want to state what is not acceptable. That's fine as well. Okay, at least we answer the question, right, by stating which is the one that is acceptable or not acceptable. Then I explain. Okay, I explain by saying that because x and y are length quantities. So quantity, okay, is physical attribute, if I get that correctly explained. Okay, so x and y, they are quantities itself, okay, and they are length quantities. That means to say that they are length measurements. Alright, okay, so I specify what the context has told me. Okay, so I linked it to the context of the question to say that x and y are length quantities. Okay, then this provides me that link to, okay, the fact that I know, or the fact that everybody who knows maths know, okay, that is that length quantities cannot be negative. Okay, so my answer comes in 3 parts. There is a complete whole in answering and explaining why is it that only one of the solutions is accepted. Okay, which one is it that's accepted? Okay, what is it about these quantities? Okay, that is drawing reference to the context itself. And then, okay, why is it that only one of it is acceptable? And that is because of the fact that for length quantities, they cannot be negative. Alright, so I hope that you see how I phrase my sentence, okay, where I am addressing not just the value itself. Okay, I'm trying to bring the fact that I know to the context of the question. Right, and that's very important, and that's often missing, okay, in many of your answers. So I hope that this really helps us to clarify, okay, about how to explain, right, our answers in certain contexts, or whenever there's context involved. Okay, and that's for your exercise 2.1.